My name is Romande Shaulu. This week, again, violence swept across rural Nigeria. Villages were attacked before sunrise. Families were forced to flee. And in parts of the Sahel, the line between insurgency and criminality grew even thinner. Beyond the headlines, what is actually changing? Is this escalation or simply the continuation of a conflict Nigeria has yet to contend or understand? Tonight, we investigate. On a sad news, a major was killed and 11 terrorists neutralized as troops foiled multiple ISWAP attacks on military bases in Borno. Of course, this has been a continuous problem in the area. We've had insurgents coming in to attack and destroy. They've been targeting military bases, and at a time, a brigadier general of the Nigerian army, the highest officer so far, that was killed in Borno State sometime last year. Only on Sunday, of course, there was this attack again, and the media officer of the headquarters of the Joint Task Force in Borno, called Operation Hardenke, disclosed this sad story in a statement. In Niger State, armed men riding motorcycles attacked 3 communities in a coordinated dawn raid. At least 15 people were killed. Witnesses described gunmen arriving in waves, moving from house to house, looting and shooting before disappearing into the bushes. These attacks follow a familiar pattern: fast-moving, lightly equipped groups exploiting sparse rural security presence. These attacks are no longer random banditry. What we are seeing is a hybrid threat. Criminal gangs overlapping with ideologically aligned militant cells. And the hybridization is critical because when violence becomes layered, insurgent, criminal, communal, responses become fragmented and become confused. And of course, this is part of the reason why the responses of the state has been confused. Only recently, the National Security Advisor was quoted by some people to have said that the bandits are our brothers. Of course, the lack of understanding or confusion and the thin line between communal clashes, criminality, and insurgency seem to be worsening the Nigerian security situation, and also seem to be making it very hard for the military and the government to have a coordinated response to the challenges of security in the country. 38 people were killed in Tungan Dutse village in Zamfara State, Anka Local Government Area. Women and children were abducted. As always happens in the area, homes were burnt. Bad roads, of course, delay access of security men to the area. Reinforcement comes late because of the state of the road and infrastructure. This, of course, is not a new story in Zamfara State, but what is new is the scale and boldness of attacks happening closer to the state capital and transport corridors. The bandits or the insurgents appear to be getting more strengthened, to be less fearful of the presence of security agencies.
Bulolinsu na hana mu tsiri mun ka tai mun ka shiga can cikin dakuna sun ka tai sun ka sa wuta ko ina wuta ba ta hana a hita ko ina baka da ikon ka hita da ka hita a halibi ka kenan shi din sani
wa'anda muka rasu wa'anda suka rasu wa'anda dai za mu ce ga sunan wa'anda aka ganewa an samu mutum 30 ko da biyu ne mutum 32 wa'anda kuma suka kone dai ga sunan dai da sauransu dai mu dai rashin dai sai dai mu ce ubangiji Allah ya sauka mana Allah ubangiji ya tsayar bakin.
President says they had gunshots for nearly an hour before help arrived. This pattern mirrors earlier cycles: attacks, abduction, ransom negotiations, repeat and release and repeat and continuation of the crisis. And in Plateau State, 37 miners died after toxic gases accumulated inside an illegal tunnel in the state. This was not a terror attack. The incident exposes another dimension of security in the area. It also signals government's failure and inability to control the mining sector. Of course, desperate young men and women and even the elderly troop to the bushes where they mine and sell whatever they get from the mines to whoever comes to buy. These are usually not regulated, no safety standards, and appear to be increasing as the economic crisis in the country keeps expanding. And in the Sahel, militant attacks in borderlands have surged. Groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Islamic State affiliates are expanding across porous frontiers. This matters for Nigeria because forest corridors connect Sokoto to Niger Republic. Arms flow through ungoverned spaces. Fighters move fleetly between jurisdictions. Fighters that are wanted in Nigeria flee to Cameroon. There were reports when the Americans attacked on Christmas Day last year. There were reports that several of the insurgents who had heard of the attacks or heard the sound fled into neighboring countries or even fled into other parts of Nigeria and seem to have been expanding the threats across parts of Africa. In North Darfur, at least 28 civilians were killed in a rapid support forces assault involving drones. Homes were destroyed, health facilities damaged. Sudan's war has displaced millions. And what is the significance of this? Regional instability fuels arms flows, including arms to Nigeria. Recently, in around the Plateau, some armed men were found with artillery weapons mounted on motorbikes. In Ukraine, missile attacks targeted energy infrastructure. In the Gulf of Guinea, armed attackers assaulted fishing vessels. Across the Sahel, extremist groups continued assaults on military convoys. Different continents, same underlying vulnerability, weak institutional resilience under pressure. Three themes defined last week. Rural vulnerability remains very high. Hybrid militant criminal threats are growing, even in Nigeria. Regional spillover is accelerating because of the porous borders and the relationship between communities. Many communities across West Africa speak the same language or move together and have cultural affinities. Since the borders are not very controlled, the people move from one place to another rather freely. From Nigeria to Darfur, from Zamfara to Ukraine, instability continues to reshape local and global security landscapes. The question now is not whether violence will occur, but where it will occur and who will go with the violence and what response the government will give. But whether governors can adapt faster than armed actors remains something to be studied. But as it is, the crisis continues to mount every day, every time in Nigeria. The military keeps being under extreme pressure, and many communities and many people are fleeing rural communities into urban centers. My name is Rumande Shawulu.